The arrival. The Zarathan Empire's patrol fleet glided through the cosmos like predators surveying their domain. For 3,000 cycles, they had ruled this sector with calculated precision and absolute authority. Their vessels, massive crystalline structures that caught and refracted starlight into dazzling displays of power, moved in perfect formation. Each ship measured over 2 kilometers in length, their surfaces adorned with the sacred geometries that proclaimed their superiority to all who dared look upon them. Supreme Overseer Krexval stood at the command throne of the flagship Eternal Supremacy, his 6 arms folded in contemplation as he reviewed the latest tribute reports from the subjugated worlds. His species, the Zarathans, had evolved on a high-gravity world that forged them into beings of incredible physical strength and mental discipline. Their purple-scaled skin shimmed with bioluminescent patterns that indicated mood and rank. Currently, Krexval's patterns showed satisfaction, mixed with the eternal vigilance that had kept his empire dominant for millennia. The tranquility shattered when his scanning officer's tentacles began writhing in confusion. Supreme Overseer, we detect unknown vessels approaching from the void beyond chartered space. Configuration unknown. Technology signature. Primitive, yet somehow active. Krexval's patterns shifted to curiosity tinged with disdain. Show me these wanderers who dare approach Zarathan space without proper authorization. The holographic display materialized before him, showing 3 vessels that made every Zarathan on the bridge pause in bewilderment. The ships looked like someone had welded together spare parts from a scrapyard and decided to call it spaceworthy. Exposed conduits ran along their hulls, panels of different colors and materials created a patchwork exterior, and what appeared to be duct tape held several sections together. One ship had what looked like a crude painting of flames along its side, while another bore the words, "Hold my beer," in a script the universal translator struggled to interpret. Are those atmospheric thrusters bolted to the exterior? The tactical officer asked, his voice thick with disbelief. Before Krexval could respond, a communication signal burst through their systems. Not a proper hail following the 17 mandatory protocols of first contact, but a simple audio-visual feed that somehow bypassed their security screens entirely. A human face appeared on the display, belonging to a woman with short gray hair and laugh lines around her eyes. She wore what looked like a worn flight suit with various patches, including one that read, "I brake for nobody." Behind her, the bridge looked more like a garage workshop than a command center, with exposed wiring, flickering lights, and what appeared to be a coffee maker jury-rigged to the navigation console. "Hey there, big purple folks," the human said with a wide grin. "I'm Captain Sarah Chen of the Earthship Unlikely Success. We're new to the neighborhood and thought we'd swing by to say hello. Nice light show you've got going with those fancy ships. Very disco." Krexval's patterns flared with indignation. No species had ever addressed the Zarathan Empire with such casual disrespect. "I am Supreme Overseer Krexval of the Zarathan Empire, rulers of 17 star systems and masters of this entire sector. You will power down your vessels immediately and prepare to be boarded for inspection. Your species will submit to proper evaluation for potential servitude or elimination." Captain Chen's grin widened. She turned to someone off-screen and said, "Hey Mike, you owe me 50 credits. They really do lead with the whole kneel or die thing." Turning back to the screen, she continued, "That's a hard pass from us, purple friend. We're just passing through, maybe do some trading if you're interested. We've got some killer barbecue sauce recipes and this thing called rock music that'll blow your minds." The absurdity of the situation left Krexval momentarily speechless. These primitives in their ramshackle vessels were refusing a direct order from the Zarathan Empire. His tactical officer leaned forward, whispering, "Their ships show minimal shielding, no visible weapon systems of note, and their reactor signatures suggest barely enough power for basic operations." Regaining his composure, Krexval stood to his full 3-meter height, his patterns now displaying the crimson hues of barely contained rage. "You dare mock the Zarathan Empire? We have crushed civilizations that spanned entire nebulae. We have weapons that can crack planets like eggs. Your pathetic species will learn respect or you will cease to exist." Captain Chen took a sip from what looked like a ceramic mug with "World's Okayest Captain" printed on it. Crack planets, huh? That's neat. We had a guy try that once. We turned his planet cracker into a mining tool. Makes asteroid harvesting way more efficient. She paused, then added, though we did keep one, for sentimental reasons. The casual mention of possessing planet-cracking technology while drinking from a novelty mug sent whispers through the Zarathan bridge. Krexval's scales flickered uncertainly before settling back into authoritative purple. You lie. Your ships are held together with primitive adhesives and hope. You cannot possibly possess such weapons. Oh, these old things? Chen gestured around her chaotic bridge. Yeah, they're not much to look at. But here's the thing about humans. We're really good at making stuff work that shouldn't. Like scary good. Jim over there once fixed a quantum drive with a paperclip and some chewing gum. Still not sure how that worked, but here we are. A new human appeared on screen, apparently Jim wearing a stained lab coat over what looked like pajamas. Actually, Captain, it was 2 paperclips. The chewing gum was just to stop that annoying rattle. Krexval's patience evaporated. Enough of this farce. You will surrender immediately or face the full might of the Zarathan Empire. I will give you 1 cycle to comply. Chen's expression shifted slightly, her grin becoming something sharper. A cycle, huh? That's what, about 10 of our minutes? She turned to her crew. What do you think, folks? Should we show them the thing? A chorus of voices responded from off-screen. Show them the thing. Do it. This is going to be hilarious. Chen turned back to the screen, and for the first time, Krexval noticed something in her eyes that made his survival instincts twitch. It was the look of a predator that had been playing with its food. All right, Supreme Overseer. You want to see why humans laugh at galactic empires? Watch this. She pulled out what looked like a child's toy remote control with a single red button. The casualness with which she pressed it sent another wave of unease through the Zarathan bridge. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, space itself seemed to hiccup. Where there had been 3 ramshackle human ships, there were suddenly 300, then 3,000. They appeared like ripples in reality, each one as ugly and improvised-looking as the originals. Some had what appeared to be lawn chairs welded to their hulls. Others had graffiti in dozens of human languages. One enterprising crew had somehow attached what looked like a vintage car's hood ornament to their bow. But beneath the absurd exteriors, Krexval's sensors screamed warnings. Each ship registered power signatures that shouldn't be possible, weapon systems that violated known physics, and shielding that seemed to laugh at conventional scanning methods. Captain Chen's voice cut through the shocked silence. Here's the thing about humans, Overseer. We've been fighting each other for our entire history. We've gotten really, really good at it. Then we met our first hostile alien species about 50 years ago. They had technology centuries ahead of ours. You know what happened? We took their fancy tech, duct-taped it to our ships, and figured out how to make it work better. Then we met another species, and another, and another. Each time we learned, adapted, and improvised. She leaned forward, her grin now accompanied by thousands of targeting locks appearing on Krexval's tactical display. We don't build pretty ships because we don't need to. We build ships that work, that adapt, and that survive. Every one of these ugly buckets could take on 10 of your shiny crystals, and probably come out ahead. But here's the beautiful part. We don't want to. Fighting is boring. We'd rather trade, share stories, maybe teach you this game called poker. The display showed the human fleet beginning to shift formation, creating a perfect replica of the Zarathan Empire's sacred geometry patterns, but somehow making it look like a cosmic middle finger. So, Captain Chen continued, taking another sip of her coffee. What's it gonna be? Friends who trade barbecue sauce and swap stories? Or do we have to do this the hard way? Fair warning though, the hard way involves a lot of our engineers getting creative, and trust me, bored human engineers are everyone's problem. The Reckoning. Supreme Overseer Krexval stood frozen at his command throne, his 6 arms trembling slightly as his tactical display continued cataloging the impossible human fleet. His scale patterns flickered through a spectrum of colors his crew had never seen their leader display. uncertainty, calculation, and something approaching fear. The silence on the bridge of the eternal supremacy stretched until his second-in-command, Sub-Overseer Thix, spoke carefully. Supreme Overseer, their power signatures are fluctuating in patterns our systems cannot interpret. It's as if they're using 17 different types of reactors simultaneously, some of which violate the fundamental laws of energy conservation. Captain Chen's image remained on the main display, patiently sipping her coffee while her crew went about their business in the background. One human appeared to be playing what looked like a video game on what should have been the weapons console. Another was making a sandwich. "Would you like to phone a friend?" Chen asked cheerfully. "Take your time. We've got nowhere special to be. Oh, but fair warning, in about 6 minutes our shift change happens, and the night crew is a lot less diplomatic than I am. Captain Rodriguez once declared war on a species because they insulted his grandmother's tamales recipe." Krexval's mind raced through the possibilities. The Zarathan Empire had protocols for everything: first contact, subjugation, even the rare tactical retreat. But nothing in 3,000 cycles had prepared them for an enemy that treated galactic domination like a casual inconvenience, whose ships looked like they'd been assembled by intoxicated mechanics, yet somehow possessed technology that made their most advanced systems look like children's toys. "You claim to want peace," Krexval said, trying to regain his authority. "Yet you appear before us with thousands of warships." Chen laughed, nearly spilling her coffee. "Warships? Oh, honey, no. These are mining vessels, cargo haulers, and pleasure craft. Well, except for the excessive force over there." She pointed off-screen. "That one's Jim's personal project. He turned a decommissioned warship into a mobile brewery, makes the best beer this side of the Orion Arm." As if to demonstrate, one of the human vessels fired what Krexval's systems initially registered as a weapons discharge, only for it to resolve into a massive holographic advertisement for Jim's Cosmic Ale, now with 30% less radiation. The tactical officer's tentacles writhed in confusion. "Supreme Overseer, I'm detecting what appears to be a pizza delivery shuttle moving between their ships at faster-than-light speeds." "That'll be Tony," Chen explained. "He figured out how to use micro-wormholes for food delivery. 30 minutes or less, anywhere in the galaxy, or your money back. He's actually the reason we have FTL travel. He really hated cold pizza." Krexval felt his worldview crumbling. The Zarathan Empire had built their dominance on discipline, order, and technological superiority achieved through millennia of careful development. These humans had apparently achieved similar or greater capabilities through what could only be described as chaotic improvisation and an apparent inability to take anything seriously. "What do you really want?" Krexval asked, his voice losing its commanding edge. Chen's expression softened slightly. "Honestly, we're explorers, traders, and yeah, occasionally we have to defend ourselves, but mostly we're just curious. We heard about the big bad Zarathan Empire from some folks a few systems over. Nice people, bit too many tentacles for my taste, but they make excellent pasta, and we thought we'd come see what all the fuss was about." She stood up, and the camera pulled back to show more of the human bridge. It was even more chaotic than initially visible. There was what appeared to be a herb garden growing in one corner, a cat sleeping on what looked like the life support console, and someone had strung Christmas lights across the ceiling. "Here's what we've learned in our short time among the stars," Chen continued. "Every species we've met thinks they're the apex predators, the chosen ones, the masters of the universe. And maybe they are, in their own way. But humans? We're the species that looked at space, the infinite, hostile, impossible void, and thought, bet we could put a taco truck there." A notification popped up on one of her screens. "Oh, speaking of which, the taco truck just arrived. You folks want some? We've got vegetarian options, and Carlos makes this fusion thing with what you'd probably call exotic matter that's absolutely mind-blowing." Krexval's second-in-command whispered urgently, "Supreme Overseer, I'm detecting massive energy buildups in their ships. They're preparing something." The human captain apparently heard this. "Oh, that? Yeah, we're making popcorn. Movie night starts in an hour. We're watching this old Earth film about aliens invading. It's hilarious. They always get the aliens wrong. No offense. This was it. The moment that would define the next 1,000 cycles of Zarathan history. Krexval could order an attack, potentially starting a war with a species that treated galactic conquest like a comedy routine, or he could do something no Supreme Overseer had done in the Empire's recorded history. Captain Chen, he began slowly, his scales shifting to a neutral blue, the Zarathan Empire has never negotiated with a newly encountered species as equals. First time for everything, Chen replied with a shrug. We had a saying on Earth, if you can't beat them, join them. But we updated it once we got to space. If you can't beat them, and they offer you tacos, definitely join them. Despite himself, Krexval felt his mouth parts twitch in what might have been amusement. You realize that accepting your offer of tacos would fundamentally alter the power structure of this entire galactic sector? Chen's grin returned full force. Buddy, wait until you hear about this thing called the Internet. It's going to blow your collective minds. We've got cat videos that have brought down warrior cultures and memes that have ended wars. There's this one about a frog on a unicycle. Supreme Overseer, the scanning officer interrupted. I'm detecting another wave of human ships arriving. The new arrivals were somehow even more absurd than the first wave. One appeared to be a hollowed-out asteroid with engines strapped to it. Another looked like someone had connected 15 different ship types with what appeared to be flexible tubing. A third was broadcasting something called smooth jazz on all frequencies. Sorry about that, Chen said. Word got out we found new folks. Everyone wants to see. That big one there is actually a traveling museum. They've got artifacts from every species we've encountered. The curator would love to add some Zarathan items if you're interested. They trade in something called exposure, though I'm not sure that's a real currency. Krexval made a decision that would either be remembered as the moment of his greatest wisdom or greatest folly. Captain Chen, the Zarathan Empire would be interested in learning more about your proposal for peaceful interaction. The cheer that erupted from the human fleet was picked up by every sensor in the Zarathan armada. Ships began firing what looked like weapons but turned out to be fireworks, spelling out, "Welcome to the party," in Universal Standard. Excellent choice, Chen beamed. Fair warning, though, humans are kind of like a fungus. Once we show up, we tend to spread. Before you know it, you'll have human food trucks on every corner, our music in your clubs, and your kids will be saying things like yeet and that's so extra. It's already happened to 12 other empires. They seem pretty happy about it, though. As the first human shuttle requested docking permission, allegedly carrying something called a welcome basket that included fruit, cheese, and what the pilot described as the galaxy's most addictive smartphone game, Krexval realized the Zarathan Empire was about to experience something entirely new. They had encountered species that fought them, species that fled from them, and species that submitted to them. But they had never encountered a species that simply refused to take them seriously, that treated the vast cosmos as their personal playground, and that somehow made the terrifying seem amusing. One question, Captain Chen, Krexval said as the docking procedures began. Your species possesses technology that could conquer the galaxy, yet you choose to trade snack foods and entertainment. Why? Chen's expression became thoughtful. You know what the scariest thing in the universe is, Overseer? Boredom. We figured out that conquering is easy but boring. Making friends, sharing cultures, trying new foods, and seeing who can tell the best jokes, that's hard, but it's fun. And if there's one thing humans are good at, it's finding ways to have fun. She raised her coffee mug in a toast. Welcome to the galactic community, Zarathan Empire. Fair warning, it's about to get weird. As the first taco truck successfully docked with the Eternal Supremacy and the smell of seasoned meat and fresh tortillas wafted through the recycled air, Supreme Overseer Krexval had the strangest feeling that the real invasion had just begun. And somehow, despite everything his 3,000 cycles of training had taught him, he found himself looking forward to it. The Zarathan Empire had laughed at many species over the millennia, but as Captain Rodriguez's shift took over and immediately challenged them to something called beer pong diplomacy, they learned what the rest of the galaxy was beginning to understand. When humans laugh, it's not because they're weak, it's because they've already won, and they're inviting everyone else to join the victory party.